Hey everybody, Matt from Eastwood. We're here in the Eastwood garage again, doing another live tech session for you guys. For any of you guys that haven't watched one of these before, we want it to be as interactive as possible. So make sure you log on to the chat on Facebook, YouTube, or you can also watch it on eastwood.com. As always, we have Scott over here answering questions for you guys.
Yeah, so today's going to be a great demo on different tricks and tips to be able to get your seam sealer laid out. Matt's got some great examples over there so you know what you're doing. So let's see what we can do.
Cool. So I thought this would be a good demo with springtime coming around. A lot of you guys are finishing up your projects you've been doing all winter, doing metal fab and stuff like that. If you're like me, I do all my heavy, dirty fab work that can be tedious, during the cold months when I'm just stuck in the garage, working away. So now it's time. You got everything welded. You're ready to seam seal, paint, get everything nice and get it on the road. So I'm going to talk about our most popular seam sealer options that we have, and kind of go over some tips and tricks with those. So probably the most common, one of the most common ones we have here as far as ease of use goes is we have our high solid seam sealer in a caulk tube here. So with this, you just cut off the end just like you would any other caulk tube, use the gun, and you can apply it on. Works really well. It's paintable, of course. It dries very, very quickly, as does all of these. Usually within an hour or so it's set up, and you can actually do some paint work on it after that. And we offer it in a couple different colors here, as you can see. Just depending on what you're working with, you may want to go with a lighter color. If you're painting something that's going to be a lighter color over top of it, you may want to go with the beige instead of a black. The next one we have here is our brushable seam sealer. So with this seam sealer, you get a little bit more, out of a can obviously than you would the tube. It goes a little further. You can close up the can, so you can use it, close the can up, and you don't have to worry about necessarily the issues with like a caulk tube where you have to worry about trying to get a screw in there or something to cap it off. So with this, you can keep using it. But the flip side is you have to use a brush. We have these acid brushes here, which I'll set a couple out for Joe to get a shot of. So we have some of these acid brushes that we sell in a little kit. You can't just use a regular paint brush or something like that. You're going to end up having issues where it's clogging the brush and it doesn't work as well. We found these little acid brushes work really nice. They make it nice for application. They don't clog as easy. And they come a little pack of 5 normally. So you can use those to put it on. And what it gives you is it's going to give you a brushed finish when you're done, which if you're doing a restoration, some of the, especially muscle cars and things like that, that's what you're going to be trying to replicate. So you can use this brush and use the brushable seam sealer and get basically the same effect by doing that with a little bit of practice. The next one that's pretty cool, I really like this one. It's our 2K self-leveling seam sealer. So if you're going to be sealing seams in an area which you can't get in there to maybe brush it or smooth it with your finger, like we're going to show in a little bit, you can use the self-leveling. So what that does, it is a 2-part system. We have a special mixing tip here, which I'll show you in a little while, that mixes the 2 parts together, gives it the perfect ratio, and then when you lay it out, it's going to sit a little high on the surface, but as it cures, it's going to start flowing out, and it's going to give you a nice level surface. So if you're doing rain gutters or things like that in a car where you can't get in there, this is really good for it. Now it has a little more viscosity than the other seam sealers. So you may need to dam up an area. So if you're doing something that's downhill that's not level, like if you're on the back of a car where it's kind of going downhill, what you want to do is just dam up that area, use a piece of cardboard and some painter's tape, and that will stop it from running as it's leveling out and doing its thing. But otherwise, it just levels out and it turns out real nice. So what I have is a couple examples here as applied without doing anything at all. Just put it on and let it cure. The first one here is our brushable seam sealer. And what I did, just to step back, I used our little pneumatic punch and flanging tool here. So a little pneumatic guy. And what that did was give us a flange on the back side here that I could set the panel in and overlap it. And then the punch side allowed me to drill punch holes, and then I could just spot weld those shut just to kind of give you an idea. Similar situation as you might be doing with floor pans or other repair work. So this is the brushable. This is as brushed on. I'll try and turn it. There we go. You probably see the kind of the texture to it. So that's as brushed. It's going to give you the brush strokes. depending what you're doing, that might be exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for that kind of brush to look like it might have originally. Or if it's in an area that you're not worried about taking the time to finish it, or it's hidden, this is acceptable. It's sealing up. You can put it right over top of the metal. Pretty much all of our seam sealers are acceptable to put over bare metal. But the one thing, and we were just talking about beforehand, I like to always put some kind of primer down first just because I'm paranoid, whether it's rust encapsulator or a primer. And then I do my seam sealer. But this is okay to put over top of bare metal, but what you need to make sure is that you don't have any pinholes. So when you're putting it on, you need to make sure that you go over either with your finger, the caulk tube. It's a little easier with the self-leveling because it kind of flows nicely. But you need to make sure there's no pinholes or anything like that, because if you're doing it on bare metal, moisture can get in there and could possibly start rusting. So if you have the extra time, it's not a bad idea to spray a coat of primer or rust encapsulator on there just to seal it up. But it does go over it. It will adhere, no problem at all, and you can paint right over it. So that's the brushable. Now this is the high solids, and this is as applied. Now I did not put anything, I didn't do anything with a brush or my finger or anything like that. It's as applied. So you can see it's sitting up off of the surface here. Now we filled up the crevice in there, but it's sitting up off of the surface. That is going to be something that you could see even after you paint it, and doesn't give quite the best look. So what you need to do is try and figure out a way that you can either brush it or smooth it out, and we will show you that in a second. But that's as applied. As it dries, it does not flow out. Now I'll show you same thing, but with the two-part self-leveling. So self-leveling, try and get a shot there. Is that pretty good? So you can see the self-leveling, same thing. I didn't do anything. I just applied it on and let it cure overnight here. And it's leveled out real nice. So you could see that it's kind of flowing around. It was a level surface, so it didn't run out the panel. But you get, if you don't dam it or do something about it, you're going to get a little bit of a wavy edge as it kind of flows out. But nice thing is this is nice and flat, didn't require any type of any special tricks or anything, and you're good to go. So if you want to try and use, maybe you want to use the one part, the high solids seam seal, and you want to get a smooth finish on it, or you're using the brushable. We have a little trick that we've talked about before, but I'm going to show you guys today, where you can smooth it out, get a nice clean edge, and you can also get a nice smooth appearance as well. So I'm going to move these other guys over here. Got some gloves, and we have our little applicator gun. It's a fancy caulk gun here. This is actually, I actually a lot of times will buy the cheap $1 ones and Home Depot and throw them away, but it's so annoying to do that. This thing's heavy. You can rotate the tube, and it's actually got a metal handle here, so if you're honking on it a little bit, you're not going to break it, like happens to me sometimes. So this is really nice. So I have a tube already here, the high solids, the black high solid here, that's already cut open that we did for the demo when I set it up yesterday. So we'll get this set up here. And then I have a piece here that I spot welded, quick sanded the welds down, hit it with a DA sander just to get everything nice and flat. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to use this cardboard actually. So what you can do is you can take your painter's tape here. The thickness of the painter's tape doesn't really matter. It just depends how sloppy you are with the application, or if you really don't want to get into an area you're not supposed to. I just measured out little marks real quick to make my life easier. You can eyeball it however you want. So you can put that on, tear it off there, make sure it's nice and flat so nothing can get underneath. Take my other one here, put it on, same thing, rip it off. And now what we have is we have a little area here that as long as we stay in there and I'm not too messy with it, we can lay some of this down. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a pretty heavy amount on here. And you just have to know that you're going to waste a little bit here. If you're frugal like myself, I know it's difficult, but. So I'm going to put, like I said, a pretty heavy bead on here. Just trying to keep about the same amount on there. All right. So this is how I applied it before, and you saw the section where I just left it. It's just going to sit on top like that. And if you didn't get it right into the crevices, you could not be fully sealing possibly. So the first thing I do if I'm using this stuff, you can either use a brush or you can use your finger if you don't have any of the brush around. So what I'll do is the first pass I'll take with my finger here and just run it down. And all I'm trying to do is just get everything in where it's supposed to be and fairly level. So it's not, get it up in there. And I'm taking another pass, just trying to get rid of some of the massive amount of excess. And you don't have to worry about being super smooth there. So now the little trick that you can do here is you'd actually take some of our paint prep. And what you can do is you can spray this on the surface. I know it sounds scary when we say that. People always cringe. What you can do is just spray a little bit right on top like that. Now what that does, it kind of allows it to soften up a little bit, and you can kind of just go over the surface. Again, I like to just go over a couple times here, make sure I really got it in there. And I'm going to do one more pass, final one. Okay, so what that did is it actually kind of made it a little more, it broke it down just a little bit so that it was a little smoother to pull. So what we can do now is you can pull our tape off here. I know it looks messy. Money shot. Oh snap. Here we go. And make sure you wear these nice gloves because this stuff will get everywhere. Oh boy, I got a little messy there, so I have a little section I need to just quick touch before we let it dry. And I'll try and touch that then, but Joe's going to get I'll turn this so you guys can see here. Want me to turn it up for you? You're all right. Good? Okay. But what you can see is that gives you a nice, clean, crisp edge over the area where we welded and the seam that's overlapping there. That looks really nice. I mean, once that dries and we paint over that, that's going to be nearly invisible, and it's a nice professional finish there. These little areas here, what you can do is you can take a clean rag, which I do not have right this second, and, well, let's see if I can get it. You can take a little bit of pre on your rag if you get a little excess here, and you can quick wipe it off. As long as it hasn't set up yet, you can kind of go over it. It's not too big of a deal on the panel there. But that gives you a nice finish there. Turn that up so you guys can see. There we go. So you can see we got a nice crisp edge just by using the painter's tape and just a couple sprays. Key thing is just a couple sprays of the pre. You don't want to douse it in pre because then it's going to get everywhere and kind of cause a mess. You just want to get just a little bit on the surface so you can wipe your finger and smooth it all out and give that real nice look to it. So any questions at all, Scott, before I do one last thing here?
Yeah, we got a good one for someone who just tuned in. About how long until you can start painting over top of this product?
It varies on some of these. A rule of thumb that I like to do is an hour. Some of them will vary and they're actually set up a little quicker. It's even half an hour. But I like to wait about an hour. Sometimes if I'm doing a lot, I'll just leave it sit overnight just to be 100% sure. But if you're trying to get a lot of work done, within an hour you should be fine that it's cured that you can actually paint over top of it. So that's that. Any other? Sorry.
Yeah, no, then one other thing just to cover real quick, a tech tip as well. Matt has the straight line to give you that nice smooth appearance. Some of the cars also came with a brushed look. So you can mimic the same thing where he put the two lines down of tape put your seam sealer out of like either brushed on or out of the tube, and then the acid brushes she was showing, you can actually tape them side by side to give that, you know, nice wide brushed look. And then when you peel the tape, you know, people won't even be able to tell that it's something that didn't come from the factory. So that's a little tech tip to really mimic factory, like, 'cause some factory ones are smooth and some also the brushed look.
Yeah, that's a good one. You worked in the kind of
In the collision industry,
collision restoration type world where nothing I do is stock, I feel
yeah,
like.
the idea there is.
But that's good. That's a good tip that if you guys are trying to mimic the other way, you know, that's a really good one.
Yeah, you want to be able to pop the hood and not be able to see it's ever been worked on.
So one other thing I wanted to show, there is some, we get some people that have a little bit of confusion with the high solids, or I'm sorry, the two-part self-leveling that occurs. So I wanted to show you guys when you open one of these up brand new, what you're going to come across and what you want to watch out for. So I already mentioned about the, you know, damming it up if it's not level. So when you take this, when you open this up, there's this little cap on the end here. There you go. Now you can see it. And that has a little separation in there. It has two little posts that separate the material inside. So I want to show you guys one thing. When you get this, again, if you're frugal like me, it hurts to waste material sometimes, but this is necessary. So this is our applicator tip. I don't know if Joe can get a little bit better of a close-up there. You can see the little maze that's going on inside of there. And that's where the two parts are actually coming up through. So it's sectioned off inside the tube. And I want to show you guys, when you're putting this in, what you're going to come across. We're probably going to want to be close again to show this. So I'm going to try and turn it so you can see the applicator and see it going through the, there we go, good. Dang. So when I push it through, you can see it's starting to come through and it's clear here. This is where I've seen some people make mistakes here. They just start putting it right on their car. And it's clear. You're only getting one part right now. It takes a little longer. You have to do a couple squeezes here to get the other part to start mixing in. And we're going to start seeing, after a little bit, see, the blue's starting to come in there. Now the second part's hitting. So don't apply it when it's just clear. You do not want to apply that. It's not going to set up right. So you want to make sure that you're pushing it. Now we're starting to get the blue. It's still a little clear. There we go. Now we're getting a nice, I'll move it over here so we can show. So you can see there, it's nice deep blue, Eastwood blue. Shout out. Eastwood blue. Kurt would be proud. This is what you want it to look like when it's coming out. And you can see the stuff's pretty it's a little more watery. Now another thing, if it keeps coming out of the tip like that, what that is there's pressure on the back of the gun here. So if you don't want to waste a bunch or you don't want to get it on something, I hit the little release button in the back of the gun and actually pull the pressure off, and that'll stop that real quick. So I see that sometimes in reviews, you know, and people that are having trouble or they say it's messy and they got it all over the place. Well, if you leave the pressure on the caulk gun, and you're done, there's still pressure there and it's pushing it out because there's still a little bit of pressure on the inside here. So you can push this little trigger on the back side, releases the pressure, and it'll stop the excess flowing out much quicker, you know, within a few seconds instead of that. So that's the key here is make sure that you're coming out, you get that nice Eastwood blue, and that's when you know that you're ready to apply it. And like I said, definitely dam up the area, use the tape, use some cardboard to make sure it doesn't go where you don't want it to go, because this stuff works really well. And once it's cured, it's kind of tough to get off, and you don't want to have to go back and be sanding that off. So that's for the two-part here, the self-leveling. Any other questions you got, Scott?
Not any questions, but one other little tech tip of the one Matt just worked with. Unlike the standard caulk gun where you're trying to find a screw or a nail to cover it off, once you're done using that product, it's going to come with the 2 applicator tips. We do have extras also, but leave that one threaded on and just leave it sit upright. It's going to actually harden in there in the end of the tip, and then when it comes time, seals off the whole tube. When it's time to use the next one, just unscrew it, break it off, and now you're ready to go.
Mm-hmm. And it does. So, you can reuse the little guy on the end here too.
Right, you can do either or.
You know, you can put that one right in there too, but make sure you're not mixing when you're doing that. You're not mixing if a little bit gets kind of gooped on the end of this tip here. If you're putting it back in, it's going to do its thing. So, cool. And that's all, no questions?
Nope, we're good.
Man, we must have done a great job today. So guys, thank you for watching as always. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we're doing these. And for any guys that are watching out there, Spring Carlisle is this week. Our guys are over at Spring Carlisle setting up to do a booth up there. So it starts tomorrow, opens on Wednesday. Make sure you stop by the Eastwood booth. We have a post up on our Facebook page with the space numbers that are escaping me right now. But we have a post up there. You guys can see that. And make sure that you guys are stopping by the booth, see what we got. We got some really great deals. So thanks, guys. I'll catch you later next week. See ya.